Yeah, that song kicks ass. Welcome to Miscellaneous Guys podcast number 10. Woo! Lucky number
Yay,
10. We
we
made
Yeah.
it,
made it.
baby. All right. With us today is DJ.
Hey, what's up, yo?
Hey, hey. And Joshua Falcon Punch.
Him.
Hmm. All right, guys. So there is a lot to talk about. We're going to start off by talking about the games we've been playing. We will be talking about the major announcement of Bethesda's buyout by Microsoft. In line with that, I think we should discuss, what our favorite IPs are of Bethesda, and to talk a little bit about sort of the some pre-order issues that Xbox, uh, you know, orderers, I guess, are have been experiencing, along with some PlayStation people who have been trying to pre-order the new consoles. We should talk about why Joe Attles one is a flake, and of course, if there's time, we're going to talk about what's left and the rumors out there. All right, guys, so let's just get right into it. Joshua, why don't you tell us about the games that you've been playing?
Sure. So recently, Mario All Stars 3D came out, so I picked that up and I've been playing it. So it's basically Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, and Mario Sunshine. Not in that particular order when they were released, but I've been playing mostly Mario 64. I love that game. It's very nostalgic to me. I grew up on that game when in the 64 era. So I'm having a lot of fun just going back in, reliving the music. I mean, graphically, it wasn't the greatest looking game now, but back then, oh my God, wow, the first ever Mario in 3D, you know. So reliving that and just remembering where I was in certain levels and what I was doing, it just it means so much to me, and I think more so too. It reminds me a lot of my mom, just because my mom was the one who like bought me my game, my 64. I remember like begging my mom, "Mom, oh my God, Mario this and that. I want to play it so bad. Please buy me this console." And I remember she got it for us for Christmas, for me and my brother Brian, and just the memories of that is the reason why I'm loving playing Mario 64 again. So that's that's the game that I've mostly been playing. I've also touched on Gears, the first one, Gears of War, with my cousin Snotty Pig. We played our first couple of levels, and so far so good. I mean, he was mentioning to me about how the graphics still kind of hold up, even if it is a no game, and I don't know when the game came out. Snotty, do you remember when the game came
2000,
out?
2006, I believe.
2006. So him saying, "Oh, like this game looks so good even now." To me, I'm reliving it because I've never played the game, to be honest with you guys. So it's a fun experience so far. That's the game I've been playing. I have Game Pass now, so I also downloaded Doom Eternal, and I also installed Alan Wake. So those are the two games that I'm going to be playing in the next couple of like weeks and stuff. So yeah, those are the games that I've been playing.
Cool. I look forward to your experience with Alan Wake for two reasons. One, because I don't think you'll ever finish that game. For one, it's a large game and you have a reputation. So that's one. And then two, that in general you are sort of like you were me, like before I became me now, which is to say, like, that game to me in parts was very scary, like, and sort of like really got to me, because the story's so just eerie, and even like parts where you're supposed to sort of be in a serene state and get to you,
Hmm.
you know. So like I look forward to your experiencing that and telling us all about it. I hope you get to record some of the gameplay and just like if possible, like even just some of your reactions, because that'll be
Okay.
great. And of course, Gears of War is like, I think it's probably easy enough to say that it's probably my favorite franchise on Xbox, if not my favorite franchise on whatever. I've that that game and BioShock were the games that brought me back to console gaming. It was like because of those two games, I remember seeing the Gears of War trailer and it just like I was just like wow, and I still didn't like give in, but once I saw the BioShock trailer, that was it. It was like okay, I'm buying that console, and that was the first thing I did literally after because I saw the commercial in a theater back in the days when they would run like these low rent commercials on theaters right before like I would get there so early, they would run for these trailers and commercials right before the movies would come on, and like that's where I saw the Gears of War trailer. Like, such a good trailer with the music from what is it? Is it I know the original
Mad
is like
World, right?
Tears for Fears. Mad World. The version that they have is like the Jewel something version. I can't remember, but that
Hmm.
version is the version that yeah, Mad World. It gets to you like it's such a lonely, barren world, such a destroyed world, and like just see. I wanted to see how that world came to be, and what we could do to fix it. Because like I think for me, the interesting part of any sort of dystopian post-apocalyptic story, it's not so much like the fall as much as the rebuild that I sort of like enjoy. I enjoy the fall to a certain degree, but like the rebuild to me is sort of what I'm interested in, because as human beings, like there's a part of us that can like want um, to never give up, right? Like we're sort of made to continue to function, and in sometimes in such bleak worlds, there's a big like group that's a sort of like I don't want to live in that world, and I wouldn't want to survive it, and like to me, it's like I totally want to survive it. I want to see what we can do to fix the apocalypse, to like correct things. We can fix this world. I call me an optimist, but I think we can fix this world, and seeing things like Gears of War, I feel it's like you're part of that battle, and it sort of, in a weird way, tricks the mind into believing that yeah, I could do this. So Gears of War is one of those games that like to this day, Josh said it for me. It's like I think it looks great. I think it looks amazing. It created such a uh, detailed world with so much just great destruction that I just love it to this day. So I'm glad that we're playing it together, and look forward to more sessions on that.
Yeah, yay.
Yeah.
So DJ, tell us about the games that you've been playing.
For the most part, this last couple weeks, I'm still been cracking away at Kingdoms Amular, however you say it. And yeah,
Amalur?
Amular sounds better. Anyways, uh, yeah, it's a really big game. I got 60 hours into it right now. I've been doing a ton of the side quests. There's several factions that have their own quest lines. Some of the stories that are within side quests can be surprisingly long and in depth. So I'm getting to this point where I'm starting to shy away from the side quests. It is kind of a habit though, you're running around the world, you're like, ooh, exclamation mark, let me go talk to this guy. I'm starting to steer clear of them so I can hopefully finish the game. It's a lot of fun, but right now, the thing the game is lacking right now is like your main character. I talked to you guys about this before. The main character is just such a blank slate that after 60 hours of playing, it's just like, this guy or girl or whoever you choose to create is just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the word is, but after playing the game for so long, I feel nothing for my character. The world is great. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of storytelling, a lot of high fantasy stuff when they're talking about the she and what are those other fairy people called? But anyways, yeah, summer fae, winter fae. It's a really cool world, but yeah, your main character is just a blank slate.
Yeah, the blandness of a character can really throw you off. Like it can be the difference between absolutely wanting to continue on a long quest or simply kind of wanting to push through and get to the end, right?
Yeah, skip dialogue.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it just a short time ago that like one of the things that we've disliked the most is that like in Destiny we always hoped that your guardian would be someone, become someone, and have some meaning. Like all of the characters sort of refer to your guardian as just K Guardian,
Yeah.
as if you were just some soldier, random soldier out there. And maybe to a
Yeah.
certain degree you are. But there's a part of you that's like, hey man, I've been out there battling for you and like leading the charge against the forces of evil. And I'd like a little recognition. Maybe you can
Yeah.
learn my name.
Yeah.
That'd be fun, I think. The
Mm.
the idea that essentially you put yourself into the character, and that helps you actually get sort of more involved so you can pretend to be that character. It's a good idea, and I think it works to a certain degree, and maybe it works for a certain number of hours, but after a while you're just like, hey man, people like I feel like my character should have more like personality
Yeah.
that I'm not necessarily the one putting it into the character.
So,
um
oh, I just want to say real quick. You made me think of this one part of Kingdom Amulet. Helping a group of fae, which are basically a different type of elves, I think, or a type of fairy that look like human. Anyways, they're called the court. Anyways, you have to fight this evil one, and the whole time you're fighting her, she several times more or less proposes to you, say like, hey, you're strong, I'm strong, we could do this together. The times I played in the game in the past, I just killed her, but this time, after like the third time she proposed to me, I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna hook up with her. And now we're technically the king and queen of this little fairy area. But outside of that little area, after that quest is over, doesn't matter at all. No one gives a shit.
Ah, that's yeah, and that's obviously like that seems to be like a failing of like just resources. Like how can you like you want to create all these different parts and have them all sort of have meaning and then
Yeah.
have them all be interconnected, but man, the larger you build your game, the harder that is to achieve, right?
Yep, yep. I was expecting
Man.
to. I mean, for a little while, like shortly after that quest line, some people would be like, "Oh, hey, you're the new ruler of this." But like, I was hoping when I got across, it would be one of those things where the people of that are connected to that group of humanoids in this world would be like, "Oh, you're the one that married the villain. Yeah, we don't want to talk to you," or some sort of consequence or benefit for doing that. But yeah, you're right. Big game. It's hard to do that, especially back in what 2012.
I always this might seem very oddly specific, but I've always wanted to sort of have an affair with like my character to have an affair so that I find out like to see what how they would treat that sort of like, hey, we love each other, oh, you've had an affair, oh, you bastard, like like what happens now, like you have a choice of marrying anyone you want, then you get married, but then at the same time you take women into your bed or whatever,
Mm,
and it's like, oh, your character is a sleazeball and not to be
yeah,
trusted or something.
I
I
think
And
think they
it's
have a game for that. I think that's called The Sims. Don't quote me. I'm just throwing it out there.
to
Fable.
to a certain extent, yeah, I think so. But Sims can fill an itch to a certain extent. But I think that like to a certain extent, some of these games like they stray into like the pornographic, and that's not
Uh,
like as jokes aside, that is not what I'm interested in.
yeah,
It's sort of, and I'm interested in is sort of like the drama behind it, because like every once in a while, I feel like these worlds are so like they love each other so much, and it's like, oh, you're turning down this like beautiful woman, and that might be true, but at the same time, it's like there's a guy part of me that's like,
I,
yeah,
you
maybe
know
maybe
what?
not.
You mention it, but Mass Effect actually has
hmm
consequences for romancing
some of
a
the
character.
Bioware games would do that, especially if you were trying to romance two. At some point, like one of them would be like, "Okay, you need to choose," but then sometimes there's a character that doesn't care. And then Fable, I think, kind of stuck their toes in that with romancing NPCs, but I can't remember. It's been so long since I played a Fable game. I can't remember how in depth it was.
I
Right.
do remember something about that, and there have been other games too where they sort of have like they touch on it lightly, but there's that part of me. It's like what if Link was like you know F
Oh
Zelda.
hell no! You can't. Wow.
Yeah, like seriously, like just like okay, I might do it because there's a part of me that's like duty bound or whatever,
Huh.
but the romance is over, babe. I found
Oh,
somebody else. Uh, it would
I
be I
found Impa. That's
I'm
funny.
kidding, Nintendo guys. I'm kidding.
No, no, no. I think it's hilarious, dude. I think it's funny.
just
No, no, but
just don't search with it with the Google Safe search off.
for the record, I always have Google search safe search off.
I have it off too.
It's,
It's like I
it's,
want to
it's,
see anything and
I,
everything.
I don't if you're showing me accidental titty at work, that's not my fault. it's that's that is Google's fault. After you get fired, you're like, but it was Google.
But Google did it.
It wasn't me. Yeah, no, I think like speak. I mean, just to sort of we've been talking about RPGs and the roles of RPGs. Like I think and I know that we're entering a sort of we're entering a new generation. Like the promise of a new generation is that the games will get bigger and better and different, right? Like so like although we're not like maybe this is a little bit outside of the topic here, but uh, we've talked about what an RPG is or isn't. Let's talk about what we'd like to see more of in RPGs that maybe isn't there now, since we're sort of on that topic now. If you guys want.
uh,
Huh.
I'm trying to think. I so it's weird because on one hand, I keep thinking to myself, I want more freedom to make any choice I want. But then when I play games that give you that freedom, I either A, make the same choices, like the same good guy choice, or B, just get so overwhelmed with choices that I'm just like, just can we
What
just
to
streamline
choose?
this? Yeah, So it's weird. It's
I
easy to
don't
say
know.
I want this, but once you have it, sometimes you're like, wow, this isn't as fun as I thought it was gonna be.
Like for me, I think I would use, and some people may disagree with me, and that's totally fine. But like Breath of the Wild for me is what I would want in most RPG games. Not to say that Breath of the Wild is an RPG or not, but it kind of like your weapons break after a certain amount of use, your shields break, things of that nature. But just the freedom to kind of explore everything. It's not linear at all, like previous Zelda games. So to me, an RPG kind of like that would be great. And maybe there are games that are similar to what I'm describing. But I think that's what I would want for these next gen console games to kind of follow suit. Because I know that Breath of the Wild took inspiration from Red Dead Redemption 2. So those developers that made uh, Breath of the Wild did say that it's like, hey, we took inspiration from these open world games and stuff like that. So that's we took their ideas and brought it into this game. So they are doing something like that, but I would want more gameplay experience like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea in general. Like any game you like, right? You want to see more of a version of that, right?
Hmm.
But what I'll say is like I'll get a little more specific. I'd love a betrayer option in almost any game, you know? Like I'd
Hmm.
love hey, this, at some point I'm switching sides. F the, good
I'm
guys or
gonna
whatever.
kill Ganon and then take all his power.
Right. Well, that's the thing
Yeah.
that I loved about oh my God, Knights of the Old Republic, where you can go light side or dark side, and
Hmm.
there's a moment in the game where there is a point of no return in whether you're light side or dark side, and it affects the dynamic of the group.
Yep.
So that betrayer that you're talking about, AJ, is in that game, and a lot of games I haven't seen anything like that since that game, to be honest with you. So yeah,
I,
that'd be awesome.
I'd love to see more of that. Like just
Yeah.
Yeah.
just because I think it would make them. I think in a way it would make them work harder. So like, and by the way, and I haven't played it, so like don't. But I've heard that The Last of Us 2 makes you play as essentially your opposite, and if true, like that's something that I'm really interested in, like just seeing,
Yeah.
like experiencing the other side. We rarely. I love. debate. I love arguing, and I think you guys know that.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy it for the sport of it. So, and part of like enjoying that means that I often play the devil's advocate, and and do it to the great frustration of my friends and family, um, because I think that that's what makes you a better like and I think that helps you better understand your own points of view and your own perspectives and the flaws in your like reality. I think it'd be great to see that side of gaming where you're not just always like the super good guy and doing it because you just like that's the choice, but like what if your guardian decided to join the like the evil side, you know? It's like now you're literally fighting against other guardians and I know they've sort of touched
Factions.
on that just slightly in Destiny, but like I'd like to see more factions actually become factions where they like totally dislike each other and
Compete.
have like worldwide consequences of like,
Mm.
hey, the tower is like, instead of the tower being destroyed by some outside enemy, what if the tower had been destroyed by some internal enemy, by the warring factions and sort of like the different sides that they're taking by whatever stance they have, right? Like that would be interesting, fascinating direction to take it, you know
Uh,
and you can instead of just choosing your character you can get to choose your faction and actually have that mean something outside of more like yeah my banner is black and your banner is like red you know
one thing.
uh
That'd be cool.
that go
Go
ahead
ahead.
guys.
Oh, I was gonna say one thing I would love to see. So, I put a lot of hours into games like The Division, Division Two, and Anthem, and the gameplay of those games aren't bad, but it seems like they focus so much on uh like these loot mechanics and these things that get you wanting to play the game for infinity, and they kind of miss out on making the game better than it could have been. I would love to have a cooperative story driven game where it's like there's a big long story. You can play it solo, but you could also play it with friends, and you're going from point A to point B. There's a little bit of open world, there's side quests, there's exploring you can do, and if they could do that and keep the cooperative mechanics working well, I would really enjoy that. But it seems like nowadays those type of games always devolve down into looter shooters, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, actually playing off of that, you know what I'd like to see more of too is more turning of the bad guy kind
Yeah.
of events, you
Which
know.
you made
So
me
like
when you said that, it made me think of Division, because when you go into the dark zones, you can betray your party members, the other people you're playing with. Granted, it would be cooler if you could do it on a narrative scale, where like because there are factions in the Division. It would be really cool if you're like, hey, you know what? Screw you fighting to rebuild America. I'm gonna join these bad guys and try to be rich or something like that.
I mean, imagine in Destiny if I was like, "Hey guys, let's go explore this new planet," and I set up like a group of other Destiny players to fuck us up, and like I get to survive and take
Yeah.
all of your guns and something. Like that would be insane. It'd be like you guys could be possibly pissed at me. Like that would be
Mhm.
cool in a way because it would have real life consequences. I think, and inside of the virtual world, right? Um, I don't know, turning the bad like it's one thing to turn bad guy and like I think in the division where you turn bad guy sort of you become hunted or something. Like there's a
Yeah.
there's a prize on you to like eliminate you or whatever. That like that's one thing. But what if there was almost like no real consequence because you did it outside of like, hey, what an asshole, right? Like that'd be interesting. Like there might be some sort of penalty that you could cause like inside of the game or whatever, but outside of that, what if there wasn't? I remember playing like certain games of hardcore mode of like Battlefield, or and maybe I'm mistaken, but possibly I think Modern Warfare, where you could actually shoot your own teammates, and if you did it X number of times, it would kick you out of the game, right? Like, but
Yeah.
but you could do it because they like, hey, you're like totally messing up, or you're just sitting in the back, like, you know, things like that. I think are that sort of like, hey, you gotta where you do things out of sort of petulance and violence. It, it's a fascinating thing that I think could be explored within video games.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um, yeah, so yeah, I'd like to see more turning of the bad guy, like the option of turning the bad guy or forgiving the bad guy. Not just forgiving him because like, hey, I'm forgiving him because that's the right thing to do, but forgiving him because like maybe it's not the right thing to do, but we need this guy. Like turning it around. If you could like you're about to deal the final blow and just leave it in as a sort of secret mechanic. It's like don't do the final blow. What happens if you literally hesitate to push the A button or something? To do the final blow. What if Kratos doesn't kill Hades? You know,
Yeah.
in some of those God of War games. Like I would love to. And what if like he forces Hades to be used in a different way or something? Like those are things where I'd like to just see sort of something beyond just what's expected because I think by the time you get towards the end of a game, you kind of can see it coming. It's rare that you can't.
Yeah.
Have you guys all played Bioshock?
The third one, or
The third
whichever
one,
one,
okay.
I
whichever
have
one
not.
was the floating city. I played that one.
Yeah, that was the third. So Bioshock, right in the game, it's like there are consequences. You can sort of choose. I'm not going to tell you guys what they are. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. But you make certain choices, and depending on those choices, the game has a different ending for you. And even if you sort of do a mix of both, the game has a different ending for you. So, like, are there long term consequences? Are there RPG consequences the way DJ's described it in the past? No, but are there consequences? Yeah, and I'd like to see more of that, just expanded on a higher level, and I think that could be fun.
Definitely. I know. So it's like one of those things. Like if you're trying to tell a specific story in a game, you don't want to give the player too many options because then you can't tell your story. But it's amazing when someone can tell a story and have paths opened up to basically have multiple stories potentially being told depending on what path you take. I'm not saying all games didn't be that way, but it is really cool when a game can pull that off, where you can take that other path and have another story, then play the game again and take a different path and have a slightly or significantly different story. So yeah, those are really really good mechanics. I love seeing them.
Yeah, I totally did that for Bioshock. Like I did it all one way, and then I was like, well, what happens if I do it the other way? Because what will is it worth it to do it the way that I did it or whatever? And yeah, that those like not to the scope that you're describing, but certainly to enough of a scope that it made the replay worth it.
Yeah.
I think that's what can give more long term value to a game, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, speaking of games, there has been enormous news. Depending on, I guess, who you ask, but for most people, it was a huge deal that Microsoft has outright purchased Bethesda and their parent company, ZeniMax Media, which means that Microsoft now owns the intellectual property of essentially some of the biggest RPG games out there, including games like The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Dishonored, uh, Wolfenstein. Um, I'm blanking out on some of the other ones at the moment, but yeah, those are like some of the biggest games out there. Guys, let's talk about this purchase, what it means to you, and what it means to the gaming industry, what it means to Xbox.
Well, for
Why don't
me,
we start?
for starters, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, why don't we start with you, Joshua?
What I was going to say is that for me, at least, it got me really excited to purchase the Series X for these games. In particular, just because I'm a big fan of Fallout. I love that IP, and so I, the only game that I really haven't played of Fallout is Fallout New. I believe it's Fallout New Vegas, which is on
Yeah,
Game Pass. So I can I can play it whenever I want. But in regards to the mainline series 1, 2, and 3, I love those games. I even loved I loved even more so Fallout Tactics, which is a really fun game for me at least. But so that's huge, and so I can see the potential for it just being a Xbox exclusive. Now I know that Microsoft came out and said, these games that are for but I can't talk today. Bethesda, they are coming out for the other console, which is PlayStation 5. But down in terms of long term, these are going to be, and I hope that it is exclusive only to this particular platform, which is Microsoft. You know, because I believe competition like that is healthy for the industry. You know, for us consumers, it just makes okay. These games are going to be so much more better just because they want you to buy their product, right? So that's what I'm excited for, and that's why I think it's such a big deal that Microsoft, threw down the gauntlet and said, "Hey, I'm going to purchase this very popular developer, so you guys can come over to us."
Yeah, yeah, I think they did it. I mean, like I think I think when we first heard of it, we were all super excited and it got us talking. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have a podcast last week, but um, we remain. I think some of us remain super excited about what Microsoft has done. They've given us a reason to look forward to the Series X as a console and to look forward to gaming in the near future because there's a certain standard that Microsoft tends to have, and I think that Bethesda's been criticized, maybe rightfully so, recently over in the past several years over some of the like just glitches and just problems in their games and what's been going on there. Like Microsoft has been known to be not necessarily a perfectionist, but like has set a high bar for that, which means that these games that some of us love, like just can be better and might actually be better because they're going to set a high standard for that because so much is riding on this huge $7.5 billion purchase of Bethesda and their parent company. What it means for Xbox is that like there are other games, I mentioned already like Wolfenstein and whatnot, but for me, like one of the games that isn't mentioned as often is Prey. Like I cannot wait to get my hands on this and get my hands on that through Game Pass because although I was unwilling to get it through like the traditional means of paying for it, like would I play it on Game Pass? Absolutely. And why? Well, because like that game to me, like they had a certain look and there was certain things about it that I wasn't exactly willing to give it a chance. But I know that like Andrew is one of the people that's been raving about it as a game and what it accomplished and what it was able to do. So like now that I have the opportunity to do it through Game Pass, like that's going to be something that I'm going to look forward to do and will like really want to do, especially with the upcoming holidays. So for me, it means having an access to a huge amount of IP, getting those through Game Pass, especially some of the older stuff. Catching up with some of those older games. Like I still haven't played the second Wolfenstein. Like I played the Blood, whatever it was, and the one before that. Which I think was a prequel to the something or other. But I haven't played the most recent one, and like I can't wait to get my hands on that one either. So like for some of us that don't buy every single game, this is huge, especially if you love Game Pass. Like if you have it, or if you want it, or if you've been thinking about it, this is something that I think is going to get a lot of people interested in it.
All I gotta say is if Microsoft takes games that were previously on all platforms and makes them exclusive, I'll be heavily against this because I don't care if you're for Microsoft, for PlayStation, for Nintendo, exclusives are bad. And taking games that used to be not exclusive and making them exclusive, it's just gonna piss me off. But if they don't do that, I'm all for it. It's all good.
I think they're absolutely going to do that, and I think it's also good. And I'll tell you why it's good. Exclusives can be a really good thing because the reason that they're exclusive is because they want to sell you something, and they want to sell you that one thing and do their best job at selling it, which means that they're going to invest more into those exclusives than they would if it was just going to be something that's going to be everywhere. Game console sellers, you know, console launchers are are important, and in order to create that, there has to be an investment in which you control almost every aspect of it. But if you don't have that, then you're going to get a lesser like product. you know so I've been discussing like why has Bethesda been releasing some games that have had lots of problems, infamously like Fallout 76 recently, and the Elder Scrolls Online to me has always been kind of a um, not glitchy, but just a subpar, offering. Like, you know, the reason you're getting these at subpar levels are because there's no other than to just Bethesda. There's no like incentive to have it be the absolute best, and there's no other there's no huge investment. Whereas now there's this huge investment. So if you have Spider-Man, you better make damn sure that Spider-Man is going to be a great game. Otherwise, you're wasting you're wasting the property, right? You're wasting the value of that intellectual property. So if you have it exclusively though, it gives you that incentive because you could do certain things that you possibly wouldn't do if you're going to also be selling it elsewhere. There's money to be made in any direction, but if you can control it too, like that gives you a competitive advantage that that is can be good. So in a way, like that competitive advantage, that sort of competition can be good because it makes it an actual competition
And I
versus
think
sort of just a free for all.
just to piggyback off of what you're saying, AJ, I also I believe that too. Just if you look at Nintendo, um, their IPs are very successful. They're system sellers and they're exclusives. Like I buy Nintendo just because of the exclusive first party games that they release. I'm talking about the Zeldas, the Mario's, the Smash Brothers. You know, those games are very successful, and so like I said, I think it's a good thing that if Microsoft makes these games exclusive only to the Microsoft brand, it's going to be so much more better, like you're saying, AJ, that they're going to dive deep into making this particular game better for the audience. Um, so I'm excited for it, and maybe DJ, it may not affect you so much just because with it being part of Microsoft, it may be exclusive to Microsoft in the sense where it's coming out to the Xbox and also PC.
I'm not so much worried
So
about myself because by the end of next year, I'll probably have both PlayStation and Xbox. So for me, it's not a big deal. But for everyone who probably can't afford a new console, who's not going to be able to play the next installment of their favorite games because Microsoft is gobbling things up like Disney does, I'm sorry, no matter how much better the game could be, I'm against that kind of walling things off from people. And honestly, if the games are that bad, then maybe we should just not buy bad games. Like we shouldn't go see bad movies. Stop giving these people our money if they haven't earned it.
Right, but if we dissect your point, a person who can't afford both consoles was always going to miss out on something because consoles have always been about exclusives, right? So if you can't afford the console or if you can't afford PC, if you can only afford one, either PC, the PlayStation or the Xbox platform, you're gonna miss out on something because something is
True,
always gonna be exclusive to something. So you're always
true.
gonna need that choice. So the person just simply needs to make a choice about which one will offer them the best like enjoyment for the best bang for your buck. Basically,
So
it's no different than like having certain essentially choosing a car. Do you want an SUV or do you want it like a sedan? I mean, you might want the benefits of both, but you can't really necessarily have both. You have to choose one. Which one do you choose? You choose on which one's going to give you the best overall value, right?
true, true. Even though buying a car is more like buying tools, unless you have the money to buy multiple cars, then you could have toy cars. The console strictly entertainment. What? Even though I think exclusives are better, no matter what, everything should be on everything. Even if that makes $1 billion corporations lose a little bit of money, f them. But I'm talking about specifically the people that used to have access to these that are no longer going to have access to these. I mean, sure, maybe they'll decide to buy an Xbox instead of a PlayStation this year because Doom's going to be on Xbox. But I don't know, forcing those kind of choices to people seems wrong to me. And if they struggle to make games good because they're on multiple platforms, maybe they should be trying harder.
No, I'm not saying that the argument is that they're struggling to make the games good because there are multiple platforms. I'm saying that there's a choice. We can make the game X amount, like let's say we can make the game a 97 or we can make the game 100. If we make the game 100 and it sells more systems for us, we win twice as much versus selling an extra 10 million or whatever
Oh,
copies of,
I get the
something
financial
does.
gain. I get the financial gain. I'm saying screw the financial gain. Stop blocking things off from the customer base.
I get what you mean, but at the same time, it's like the whole like there's no companies don't make products to for pleasure. Like
Oh, I
there's
know.
always the
I know.
financial aspect of it, right? So
Of course.
like to say that it's easy enough for us to say screw the financial gain, but Xbox has you know like they have essentially they need to please their stockholders, and they also need to essentially make money for themselves, like
Yeah, and they're going to.
whether their strategy of making them exclusives works better for that, that's like at the end of the day it's up to them, right? So like
It is up to
I
them, but
can't
they're
hate
still
on a
going to
company.
make money. They're still going to be extremely profitable. They don't have to screw over sections of the gaming fan base just to make even more money. And yeah, you can preach to me stockholders and profits and bottom lines. No matter what, I'm not going to be for the company, even if in the long run it's better for. It's not better for the consumer. It's not.
I, I think successful companies are better for the consumer ultimately, so
if
like
if
and in
it
a
can be
sense,
better for the consumer without screwing the consumer over, I would agree with you. But if it's like if you have to take a shot in the cheek just to get the, I don't even know, I can't think of a good metaphor, but it's like having to take the good with the bad, the good with the bad. I'm already paying for my content. I'm paying for my consoles, my games. I'm paying monthly fees on things, and now you're gonna cut something off. So now I have to buy even more stuff. Granted, we're in a middle class or first world country. I'm guaranteeing a large portion of Americans are gonna buy both. Maybe not immediately, but they're gonna get both. Xbox is going to get its money, and I don't care if they only make 1 billion instead of 4 billion. That's just my opinion.
yeah, man, I get your point of view, and like I don't necessarily like in general I am for consumers. I just don't necessarily see how it's actually like the word screwing over seems kind of strong to me. It's not as if they're saying like straight up you can't have this. It's more of like, hey, if you want it, then you kind of need to go this way. Consumer choice has always been about like what gets you the best bang for your buck. You can choose to go to the theater, or you can choose to rent a couple of older movies. Like that choice is there, but like why doesn't the theater have the older movies still playing? It's like, well, because at some point they run out of screen space, like there are choices that are they're there to be made. I'm not trying to convince you that, hey, poor rich corporation. I just mean in the sense of like at the end of the day, these choices are there to like make things work long term versus making them work in the now. Um, it's the same reason why in the past when Netflix was just starting to do the streaming stuff, almost every single company had given them the license to do so because they didn't think that that was going to be a viable option. Like they were like, video over IP, like that's like nobody has the video like download quality to make it like viable. But little by little, things improved, and like those things were like they started to see that there was something that was there, and they're like, well, now we don't want to let you license our intellectual property. So the corporations that make movies decided not to give that license to Netflix because they're like, it's like it's breaking us, like it's not in our best interest to do so. And I can't hate them for doing that. Like in other words, I'm not thinking that, I don't think of it as them screwing over. Like, oh, I used to have Raiders of the Lost Ark on Netflix, and now I can't have it because it's got to be on, I don't know, HBO Max or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, but like, are they really screwing me over, or is it just of like HBO Max wants to have control of their IP so that they can continue to do what they do and survive and do it the way they do it? Every company has a philosophy, and part of that philosophy involves competition. And I just see this as more competition.
Yeah, I guess.
Right on, right on. All right, so let's see. We've talked about some of the intellectual properties out there. Do you guys have a favorite Bethesda property?
I guess Doom. I haven't gotten into Eternal yet. Just because I don't know games. There's a lot of them. You know.
Yeah, I love how Andrew loves to say it from time to time. He said it like 1,000 times, I think. Like, man, it's what a time to live in. You know, there are so many games and so many great things to play. Like, there's just no time to do it all. Um, so, I'd say for me, it's not that it's my favorite, but it's sort of like the one that I'm looking forward to the most right now. It's probably Prey, and also like one of the lesser properties that I absolutely loved the first game, and I didn't get a chance to play the second, is Rage. So I think Rage 2 is going to be on, has been or is going to be on Game Pass pretty soon.
Yeah, or I'm
I'm
not
not I'm
sure,
not
but
sure which,
yeah,
but Rage 2 is like one of those properties that I haven't had a chance to play, and I'm really looking forward to, and I hope that like IP gets gets to continue forward, because I really enjoyed that world, and sort of like the AI that they did for Rage was so good, like where the where they actually take cover, and they dodge, and they move from cover to cover, and
yeah,
like it's actually difficult to kill the enemies and whatnot. Like that was really impressive AI that I was playing on back in the 360 days, and I can't imagine what they'll be able to do with the Series X, at going at full tilt, you know.
yeah,
For me, I would say my favorite IP would be Fallout, just because I have so many memories with the IP itself, going all the way back to Fallout 1, Tactics, Fallout 2, Fallout 3, and now Fallout 4. So I'm really looking forward to what Bethesda and Microsoft have in store for that franchise. Um, so that's what I'm excited for, guys.
Very cool, very cool. Well, something that can definitely kill excitement is like where you cannot get the product that you want, and there have been some issues in terms of the pre-orders for the Xbox, and of course there were issues for the pre-orders of the PS5. Let's talk about that a little bit and what you may have personally experienced. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about that, because I know you've been trying to get a pre-order in Xbox, Joshua.
Yeah, so well, let me start off with the PlayStation 5 experience. So when PlayStation announced their pre-orders, well, when they showcased it and they told you how much it was going to be, they said originally, oh, on Friday you're going to be able to pre-order it, and immediately after, like some retailers were already putting it out for pre-order, and so that was a mess in itself. And there I was trying to, pre-order my damn console through Best Buy, and where I was in San Diego, I really didn't have any connection. So it took me until like midnight where I was finally able to get through and place a hold on it. And then here comes Xbox, and I was like, okay, am I gonna get it? Am I not gonna get it? Let me just pre-order it. I can always, cancel my pre-order, and it's gonna be a lot smoother, guys, just because they already said that it's gonna be on the 22nd at a certain time, and we'll be able to place an order, and it's gonna be civil. So I'm waiting for that alert on Best Buy at 8 o'clock. I jump on and nothing. It's not even available. And then about an hour later, it becomes available, and I'm clicking, 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 and nothing. And I wasn't able to get anything. And I reached out to some of my friends. They one said he was able to get it through Amazon, and of course I didn't follow that route just because I wanted to get it through Best Buy for particular reasons. But that was my struggle with it. So it was horrible, and I'm still trying to get a pre-order now. So, because my wife said that I can pre-order the Xbox, I can get both the PS5 and the Xbox this holiday season. So I'm excited for that. So now I just need to be able to pre-order my
So
Series
you're
X.
gonna pre-order the Xbox even though a certain someone isn't coming to this holiday season?
Yeah, you know what? That certain someone isn't coming this holiday season, but like you said, as soon as the announcement went out that Microsoft bought out Bethesda, they got me excited for the console, and so I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, all right, all right. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. So, and
Yeah.
then people started to have reviews on the actual Xbox itself and what it was able to do, and the features on it. And I was like, oh man, it got like the hype trade came on, and my impulse buying kicked in, and I was like, I need to buy everything. I need to buy all the accessories, all the goodies. I need to buy this terabyte thing. I'm probably not going to use it, but I need to get it just because. and I have money in my pocket, and it needs to go somewhere.
Yeah, you're not the you're. I think we said it. You're an impulse buyer. So it's what is, if there's money in your pocket, it's burning a hole. Um, yeah, I haven't pre-ordered anything. I haven't tried. I'm not gonna try. I think of pre-order as something that's like the day before. You know, if I pre-order, it's like, oh yeah, I can buy it the day before. Okay, sure. But outside of that, like I've never pre-ordered anything in my life. No game, no nothing. I don't think that there's much out there that can convince me to pre-order. I think of pre-orders as something of a scam. It's like you're I'm giving you my money now so that you can hold it and essentially benefit from my money now, even if it's in hold or even if it's in theory, like it's just there for you. No, I don't think so. I think I'd rather hang on to it until like when I'm actually gonna buy the thing. So I don't see the pre-order thing as being a big issue. I think people who are do pre-orders are just bad consumers and just impatient, impulsive, and in general, like there's like I make fun of you all the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I tease people who do it, and I'm gonna wait. Like in spite of all of the hoopla and all of the like sort of good vibes and good news about Bethesda and everything else, and even if there was like some sort of like something better that they were offering in PS5, I'd still probably wait. Just as like I'm not I want to see something that's going to knock my socks off, and I haven't seen it just yet. And if it's going to be the next Prey, or if it's going to be the next Rage, or if it's going to be the next Wolfenstein, I'm going to wait till those games are pretty much like close to out or like announced at the at a level where I believe that the thing is real and not vaporware. So I want to definitely have something in hand, rather than just sort of be I don't know, a hypothetical. So I I think pre-orders are silly. I haven't pre-ordered, and I'm not gonna.
I've
All
done
right. That's fair.
I've done my fair share of pre-orders, mostly for games, not for consoles or any kind of big piece of hardware. And me personally, I think if it's a game you know you're gonna want to pick up as soon as possible, especially if you're gonna do a digital download anyways, I don't see any harm in pre-ordering. But if you pre-order a game and then you end up not playing it, or maybe you lose interest in the game right before it gets there because something else happens, then yeah, it's something you could have held on to that money for later. Um, as far as hardware is concerned, though, I like to wait. I like to see if there's going to be any day one bugs, if any of the consoles are going to have issues, and I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's a big purchase. Maybe I'll want to use credit, so I'll wait a few months to make sure my credit cards are cleared out. Or there's all kinds of decisions on big purchases like that. But $60, a game I know I want, I've been waiting for. Yeah, I'll pre-order it.
I'll still wait. Like there are lots of like I want Cyberpunk. I'm not gonna order it until if you could pre-order it and download it 3 days earlier, then I'll buy it 3 days earlier. But like that's about it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I just don't believe in paying for something in advance in which you don't have to. I frankly don't get it. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like it's like, hey, I know I want this. I'm gonna get it no matter what. What's the difference between spending the money now and sort of getting or doing it later? Because
Yeah.
either way, it's out of my pocket. I get that, totally
Yeah.
get that, and respect it. It's like I just simply like for me, it's always been hard to understand why what the benefit is of a pre-order, and most of the time it's like, oh, you can get this skin. Skins are nothing to me. I've never bought a
Yeah.
skin. I'm never gonna buy a skin, so it's like that stuff doesn't entice me.
I don't mind them doing that kind of thing. What I really dislike is when they say, like you just said, the 3 days earlier, the 1 week earlier. I think that's kind of shady. I think that's kind of like, look, do the pre-order if you want to pre-order. Throw in some cosmetics, a little makeup here and there, sure. But you start giving people early access just for pre-ordering, it kind of, I don't know why, but it kind of feels kind of scummy to me. And it's like, I don't know. Just give people the option, but if they don't want to pre-order it, don't try to entice them or whatever. Just give them the decision. If they want to play your game, they'll play it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% if it's like a multiplayer game.
Oh
where it's
yeah,
like some people are gonna have 3 days advantage learning a map or learning the mechanics or learning the feel of the game,
that's
and
big in
like I'm gonna
competitive
have that
games.
3 day. It's like no, I don't want that 3 day disadvantage. Like that seems that like you said feels very scuzzy to me. But if it's a sort of like just a campaign or something, outside of like the potential of like spoilers, I don't really don't like. It doesn't matter to me whether you give it to someone a few days early for as a reward for like
True.
paying in advance. In that case, I don't really mind because I know like one, I never really have. I don't have almost. I have almost zero issues with spoilers. People have spoiled movies for me many times, and I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. When I went to go see Heat with my cousin, my not my cousin Joshua, a different cousin. I have about 1,000 cousins, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not even. I'm only barely exaggerating because on Joshua and my side of the family, like there are 14 aunts and uncles, all of them with kids. So there's a lot of cousins, and then on my dad's side, there's one aunt who had 14 children, so like there's just 14 alone, 14 cousins alone just from her. So one of my cousins, we went to go see Heat, and we they told us at the box office like, hey, you guys are going into this movie late. They didn't tell us how late, but they told us you're going into this movie late. So we bought, but my cousin insisted that it was only like a few minutes because he was checking his watch. And they're like, okay, cool, we'll watch it. So we bought the tickets and we walk in. We literally walked in right at the end. And if you've ever seen the movie Heat with Al Pacino, the end is one of the most critical points of the movie, and it's just a complete and total like wow moment. And like we walked in and we got to see that, and it was literally like, oh my god, you what why did you bring us into this movie? And it turns out that his watch, of course, was like an hour and a half behind or something, you know and
Hmm.
it was like, oh man. So we ended up losing it. But like outside of making fun of my cousin, I never minded. I don't mind spoilers because like to me it's the journey, not necessarily the destination, and I can enjoy it even when I've had things spoiled for me. So
Yeah.
um,
I was
that
I,
part I don't mind.
I was gonna say exactly that. It's the journey, not the destination. Also, a good story is still good even if you know the ending, except for maybe a mystery. A mystery, a who done it. Okay, a spoiler might ruin a movie like that, because part of watching the movie or reading the book or whatever is going with the characters trying to figure out what's going to happen. If you already know what's going to happen, but just about any other story, it's the story, it's the telling of the story, the world building, the character development. Those are what make the story good. And 9 times out of 10, you can probably guess what's going to happen at the end. The heroes are going to be successful, you know? So you're right. It's the journey completely.
Yeah, you're right. I think a good story in general will always trump the spoiler. But yeah, and maybe like you said, mysteries and whodunits. It's sort. I think it could take away from it, But overall, if the story's good, you'll still enjoy it. I've
Agreed.
seen, there. I don't know. I watched someone spoil the ending for me for The Sixth Sense, and I didn't care one bit. It was like at the end of the day, one, I told my mind to stop thinking about it, and it did. Like there was, it's like I don't care what that I had. The reason that, by the way, the reason it was spoiled for me was like I guessed the ending. He said, "Oh, it's an awesome ending." And I was like, "Ah, I don't want to see this movie. It looks like it's gonna have this type of ending." And he's like, and it was I was off by a little. And he's
Hmm.
like, "Well, how did someone tell you the ending?" And I'm like, "No, but this just feels like it's one of those movies that will pull off one of those like twists." And he's like, "Do you want to know what it is?" And I was like, "I don't care." So he tells me the ending, and I'm like, "Ah, yeah, okay." And I went to go see it. It was still a really enjoyable movie. Like the movie is enjoyable whether or not you know that at the end, that the kid is dead. Ah, it doesn't. I'm of course lying, but
Yeah.
it's it to me it didn't matter what happened at the end. That wasn't the most critical part of the story. What I enjoyed was essentially seeing the child go
Oh,
through the things that he
mhm.
went through, including sort of experiencing moments of terror and moments of horror and dealing with his life complicated by the things that he saw, which were, if you know the movie at all, he sees dead
Mhm.
people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that stuff, it doesn't really it doesn't bug me too much. So,
Yeah.
um,
I can't
you know,
think of any offhand, but I know there's been a few movies that I went to see because someone told me the end. Because maybe I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, that looks shitty. And then I heard someone talk about it, they said the end. I was like, oh, what? They did that? Oh, I got to see this now, you know? It hasn't happened too often, but it has happened. So, yeah.
yeah, there are good ways. I mean, like being spoiled can be good because if it sort of challenges your expectations, then you're like, oh, well, because it's different, I want to see how they arrived at it being different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it can be a really good thing too. Um, so let's see here, guys. We've discussed some of the pre-order issues, and we're gonna really talk really quickly. We're gonna talk about why Joe Atol's one is a flake.
Mm, mm.
I'll tell you why he's a flake because he didn't show up and he didn't say he wasn't coming. That's why he's a flake. Thank you for
Yes.
coming to my TED talk.
So, I heard that he flaked, and so therefore he must be right.
What the definition of a flake is one who flakes.
Yes.
It's good we can have
So
fun with our friends when they're not here.
All right. Well, that brings us in to the end of our podcast, guys. And we want to thank you guys so much for listening and joining in. I want to thank DJ,
No problem.
and I also want to thank Snouty Pig AJ,
yeah.
and I am Falcon Punch Joshua. So, good night, guys, and take care.
Laters.
Like and subscribe, baby.